Hey, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This morning, I'm really pleased to have with me as my guest Rick Kline, who's a partner at Latham. Rick, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate your having me on.
So, Rick, it looks like you had sort of one of the more unusual backgrounds I've come across, and I see that perhaps your childhood dream was not to be a lawyer, but instead be a baseball player. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yep, yeah, that's a fair way to put it. That is certainly growing up in Boston as a huge Red Sox fan. My lifelong dream was to play left field for the Red Sox. I had tore some ligaments at the end of my high school career, had surgery on that, and then retore them when I was in college, and that was the end of it. It was not going to be a career. I knew that.
Uh-huh.
I was pretty good, but not destined for the major leagues. But that was the dream that then pivoted to being a corporate lawyer to represent tech companies.
Well, how far did you get? Were you some kind of champion in high school or anything like that? Did you get very
Uh,
far?
so that's a sore topic. We got very close to a state championship in high school. That was definitely a dream not realized.
Hmm.
And then I got to play some in the fall of my freshman year. We actually had a really good team
Huh.
at Penn. Doug Glanville was a number 5 overall pick to the Cubs. We had some pitchers that ended up getting drafted, but I retore the ligaments during the fall, missed the freshman year, and then just couldn't. At that point, I had done it a couple times and couldn't rehab it, so the dream was dead.
Do you think if you hadn't had those injuries, you could have done something with the baseball career? You kind of doubt
No,
it. No.
no. College was I think that was the ceiling. I think I could have had a college career, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't going beyond that. When I got to college, it was still a dream. And then playing with people like Doug, who clearly was going to make the major leagues, there was a very significant talent
Yeah,
gap
yeah, yeah, yeah.
between me and somebody like that.
Well, what is it about baseball what is it about the game that you like so much, either as a spectator or as a player? I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up, I think everybody in Boston grows up loving the Red Sox and loving baseball. I love team sports. I still view what I do now as a team sport and
Mhm.
kind of, our team here at Latham as my team. Um, but there's something about hitting a baseball
Hmm.
when the ball jumped off the bat that from a very young age I just loved. It was my brother, my dad, and I. It was really, the thread that really tied us together. And now I have two boys who gave up baseball for lacrosse, which lacrosse and football, and they deemed lacrosse a much more fun sport. Which I will admit it was fun, but it broke Dad's heart a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. As someone who's not a baseball lover, like when I see the game, it seems kind of boring. But I guess maybe I'm there's something about it that I'm not getting.
So I think you're aligned with my two boys. They do not disagree with you. To me, it's the nuances.
Hmm.
It's the little things about baseball that are beautiful. I mean, I think they've done some things to speed up the game, and I think that's good because in today's day and age, I don't think people have the attention span to watch 3.5 or 4 hour games. But it's really kind of the nuance of moving the runner from second to third, defensive strategies, kind of pitcher strategies to work around great hitters. Those are all the things that I love watching, and just a nice day at a ballpark,
Hmm.
maybe with a hot dog and a beer. That's to me, that's a pretty good way to spend a day.
Were you a pretty good
A Red
batter?
Sox
Did you have
game.
a good do you have a good batting average or anything like that in your career back in the
I
day?
back in the day, I could hit a little bit. Yep,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was a mixture of batting average and power. So unfortunately, that was a long time ago. I still play competitive softball, and
Oh,
uh,
really?
yeah, I actually think I may do that until I can't anymore, and
Hmm.
hopefully I've got some good years ahead of me.
Oh, interesting. But you're still a super big fan. You like to watch baseball and everything like that?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't have as much time to watch baseball on TV as I
Yeah.
used to, but I
Yeah.
still love going to games. I fly out to Boston all the time. My
Okay.
brother and I have kind of kept alive. My dad passed away a few years ago and had season tickets, and my brother and I split them, even though I live in California. I've got a half interest in the weekend plan in the Red Sox.
Interesting.
Yep.
So after this career-ending injury, how did law school then come into the picture? I mean, did it take a little while to figure that out, or how did that happen?
It did. I mean, I kind of I was at Penn. I was in Wharton undergrad. I was studying business. I kind of thought I would go and be a banker or something on the business side.
Hmm.
Coming out of Wharton, I was not an accounting major, but Coopers and Lybrand had a non-accounting major program. I took some accounting classes over the summer. I got my CPA, over the course of 3 years. And during that, I kind of noticed the attorney seat at the table, structuring deals,
Mm,
working with management teams was something that really excited me.
mm,
So I think I was maybe one of the weird people. When I applied to law school, I knew exactly what I wanted to
oh,
do. I
interesting.
wanted to be a corporate lawyer working with tech companies. And that actually never wavered through my 3 years at law school, and it hasn't so far in I'm in my 25th year practicing now.
Oh, interesting. So you never dabbled with any being a litigator or anything like that, even as a summer clerk or anything like that?
I didn't. I mean, as a summer clerk, so I summered for 2 different summers. I took on one tax project because people said, well, you have an accounting background. And with all respect, I love our tax lawyers, but that, I don't think that was for me. I think I'm probably not smart enough to do that. In the litigation, I really love, I mean, I enjoy M&A deals and the
Mhm.
competition that brings, but I really, I focus a lot on getting companies ready to go public, capital markets deals, working with public companies. And it really is a lot about collaboration, working with teams, working with lawyers on the other side, and that
Yeah.
that suits my personality and work style really
Yeah,
well.
that's very cool. So now what is your practice like now? Is it as you said, a kind of a mix, or do you focus more on startups or public companies? What is kind of your mix now?
Yeah, it's a mix. I work with seed stage companies. I love the energy that entrepreneurs bring in early stages. I work with large public companies, and I love doing that and all the kind of complicated deals they do and evolving regulatory structure. But I probably, especially in good years, which I think this is shaping up to be a lot better for capital markets than 22 or 23, I
Mm,
probably spend about 75% of my time getting late stage private companies
mm.
ready to go public, taking them public, and then working with them as kind of new and growing public companies.
Now, being in Silicon Valley, is it fair to say most of your companies are tech companies, or you actually have a fair amount of non-tech companies as well?
I would say I'm probably 95%
Hmm.
tech, and some of that I think just kind of evolved over time. I do work with a few med device and life sciences companies, and I feel like digital health is something that's really evolving where it's in the life sciences space. It is a tech company, often software, that's kind of a space that I've started working with more and more. But enterprise software and SaaS is really where I spend most of my time, where kind of most of my clients are, and that I think because that's been hot over the last 10 years, that's evolved. And also, what it combines for me is the energy of entrepreneurs and management teams growing great companies with metrics that I and investors can really understand as those companies are growing. And so I think that really kind of combines my interests, and excites me. And I definitely work with companies outside of enterprise software and SaaS, but I would say it's probably maybe 70 or 75% of my practice is there.
Now, when you went to law school, did you know that you wanted to come out to Silicon Valley and be a tech lawyer, or how did that part of it come into play?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think when I went to law school, if you had asked me where I was going to practice, and this probably had to do with family and love for the Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots, Boston sports, I probably would have leaned Boston.
Mm,
And growing up in Boston, the tech center around Route 128, everybody talked about at the time it being the second largest tech centers.
yeah,
I think others have kind of caught up now. But everybody talked about, well, other than Silicon Valley, this is really the place to be a tech company. And so that bug was always kind of in the back of my head. And I will admit, my wife and I got engaged while we were at Michigan. I love Ann Arbor, great school. The weather in Ann Arbor was not to my wife's liking. And so as we were choosing between Boston and Silicon Valley, the tech companies were a draw. Family happiness was also a draw. And I think, this has been a great place to raise a family.
yeah. Well, now you obviously had an amazing career. Have you ever, I mean, I'm sure you've had a million, opportunities to do other things. Have you ever considered that you might do that at some point, general counsel or venture capitalist or anything like that?
I honestly, I've never really considered it. I think when I was young in my career, being an investment banker was something before I went to law school, that was something I thought I might do.
Yeah.
I never seriously considered it. I work with a lot of banks. I love working with bankers. I think those who, especially early in my career, kind of competed against me for recruiting talent.
Yeah.
I would actually hear back channel that was what some people said is, well, he's going to go be a banker.
Yeah.
I never really took it seriously. And, I've had clients that I love that I think would be really neat to work with in-house, but I'm a deal junkie and I love honestly all of my clients. And so to go in-house, you'd have to give up all your other clients. And so I really haven't thought about it. I mean, the closest I've come, whenever I decide to kind of slow down, which is I'm 52, I'm nowhere near that. I'll be doing this for a long time.
Right.
I could see taking board roles and working with companies I know, but that's really the closest I've ever come to seriously considering it.
So if you hadn't become a lawyer, did you have a backup plan?
That's a great question. So this is assuming that my baseball dream died. I don't know that that was a good backup plan. It probably would have been going into business. My dad was a public company CFO,
Hmm.
and I definitely could have seen that as a route. I think I love working closely. I love working closely with founders, with GCs, but there's something about working closely with CFOs who see the business through the numbers, through the metrics, that I think that probably is one of the things that differentiates me as a lawyer, that I get really excited about that. When some lawyers, when numbers come up, if you're drafting an S1, they kind of say, well, this is the CFO's job, the finance team's job. I love getting in, rolling up my sleeves and doing that along with them. So I think that, I don't know if that would have been a backup plan, but I think that would have been an alternative, that I would have maybe started the banking route and then ended up a CFO.
No future baseball career, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if they have an over 50 league, and I could get myself back in perfect shape, I'd never say never.
Well, Rick, this has been a fascinating conversation. I loved hearing about your story, and it was great to hear how you pivoted from baseball to being a lawyer.
Awesome. Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate you having me on with on your podcast.
This is Richard Hsu and Rick Kline. Thanks.